Hello friends, in this session we will talk about multivariate random variables, reading number 4 of quantitative analysis. This topic is connected with the previous discussion, which is a common univariate random variables. In common univariate random variables, we talked about the univariate, meaning the one variable, and we discussed all the statistical properties of that particular variable, right? So we discussed the mean, mode, median, standard deviation, variance, skewness, kurtosis, and so on, right? So this is about the univariate. When we enter into the multivariate theory, our concern is two or more variables and their relationship. The ultimate goal is this only. We will be discussing, say, x1 and x2. You have two variables. So our goal in the multivariate theory is to check the dependency between these two variables. If you have, say, three variables, which is not covered in the FRM Part 1's curriculum. So if you have, say, three variables, then the relationship will go like this. That is the relationship between the x1 and x2, x1 and x3, x2 and x3, like this. Okay. Here, our focus will be on only two variables and not on the three variables. So this topic, if I have to rename the topic, I will rename it as a bivariate random variables because we have only two variables and everything relating to those two variables. And same theory can be extended to the multiple variables, right? Remember one thing, we have to check for the statistical properties of both the variables as a standalone properties as well. Okay, standalone as in, say you have standalone statistical properties for x1 and x2, mean, mode, median, standard deviation, variance, skewness, kurtosis. Everything will be available for these two variables, x1 and x2. This is separate. But if you combine these two variables and if you want to check the relationship, then we have new discussion, which is covariance, correlation, beta can also be considered here, but not discussed in the learning objectives. Then we have co-skewness, which we will discuss in the next topic, and co-kurtosis. Okay. So this is the main theme of this session. And this topic is like, this theme is easy. The only problem is it is discussed in very weird manner in the GAP books. But if you see or if you know how to study this becomes very easy. I assure you, I will cover majority of the learning objectives in just 10 minutes without skipping a single point. Okay. Now, one important note for the students, like students who are taking classes from me, this topic is not available as a standalone topic in your video folder. Because all the topics or all the sections which are discussed here are covered at their relevant places. So we have here discussion like the distribution, the probability matrix. Okay, so probability matrix where we discuss the marginal distribution, we discuss the conditional marginal distribution and so on, right? So all those topics are covered with the respective topics. Then we have the covariance correlation discussion. We covered this with the CAPM section. That's why I asked you to cover this topic or watch this video in the end. Okay, once you are done with the curriculum, watch this. This is just a summarization for your the recollection of all the points we discussed in the different places. So you are not going to learn anything new in this section. This is just a repetition of whatever you have studied in the different locations. Now note for the self-study students, those who are not taking classes but who are following the self-study guide of Falcon Edufin. You can see this topic is allocated as a set 10 topic. Set 10 meaning is you're supposed to study this in the end of the discussion. Okay, end of your curriculum. So again, the reason is same. All the topics you should have studied at the different locations, and now this is again the recollection of your topics. We will watch this or we will check all the topics or discuss all the topics in just a collection form. Okay, I will not dive deep or show all the calculations. I expect you already know because you will study everything in their respective locations. Okay, now the structure of the discussion. So first section, we have few learning objectives, 3 or 4 learning objectives, which are about the probability and probability mass function. Okay, PMF. Then next section is this statistics, stats relating to the multivariate random variables. And the third discussion is the assumption of independent and identically distributed random variables. Here we will talk about what is IID, independent and identically distributed random variables. Again, all these discussions you know already. Okay, so this is nothing new. We'll start with the first, the probability mass function, PMF. In the PMF discussion, if you read the text, you will feel it is very overloaded with the mathematical jargons. But the learning objective is about understanding of the concept and not about these jargons, mathematical jargons. So what we will do here is we will try to understand and try to focus on the key concepts or the core concepts. And based on that, we will compile all the terms which are given here. Okay, we'll try to understand all the terms which are given in the curriculum. So let's first start with the example. I will first start with the probability matrix, which is very normal discussion, and then we will convert this into the tree. So this is probability matrix, and here I'm using my own case study, which is case study of, say, tax. So I will give you the general verb or the text of the case study. So assume a scenario where government is expected to come up with some tax changes, tax structure changes for a particular industry, and the organization for which you are doing the analysis belongs to that industry, say manufacturing industry or like that. Okay, so government might come up or is planning to come up with some changes or the plans. But remember, when we discuss the governments, anything can happen. Government might increase or rise the taxes. Government might reduce the taxes, TR. Government might keep the taxes constant, or government might increase the taxes. Okay, so we have the three different scenarios here: tax increase, tax constant, and tax reduced. Fine. And then, like, based on this scenario, first we will start with the tax. So I will first note this: tax reduction, tax constant, just focus on my words, tax constant, and tax increase. So this is reduce, increase. I'll just mark increase with the red line and reduce with the blue line. Okay, so this will provide you the clear indication. Now next is the impact of this tax structure changes on the company's share price. Now, change of the share price will be, share prices might rise, or we will simply keep it as R. It might rise by, say, 10%, or constant. Again, this will be 0%. That is, change is 0%. And share price might fall, and fall is by 5%. Remember this. Share price will rise, fall, or will stay constant. So stay constant meaning no change. Okay, so 10% rise in the share price, 5% fall in the share price, 0%. It is constant. Now, tax rate. So current tax rate is at 12%. 12% is applicable for this particular industry. And if government decides to reduce the tax brackets, or say tax structure, it will be 8%. If government decides to increase the tax, it will be 16%. Now remember, this is not the rise by. Okay, so this is 8% tax, 12% tax, and 16% tax. On the other hand, in share price case, it is rise by 10%, constant by 0%, and fall by 5%. Okay, so you will have share price of 100. So rise by 10% meaning it will become 110, like this. Now, here we have probabilities: 15%, 5%, 0%, 5%, 20%, 5%, 0%, 25%, and 25%. Okay, the total is 20% here, 30% here, and 50% here. 50, 30, 20 equals to 100% in this location. Then In this case, it is 20%, 15 plus 5. Then 25 plus 5, 30, 20, 50. Then 25, 5 is 30. Again, 30, 20, 50, 50, 50, 100. 100%. Okay. This is the probability matrix. This 15%, so this 15% indicates the probability of tax reduction. So tax is reduced and the share price will rise. This is very obvious. If the tax prices are reduced, then automatically share price should increase because company will get the benefit of those tax reductions. Automatically the taxes are reduced, then the prices might get lowered. If prices are reduced or lowered, then automatically it might impact the sales, and increased sales will result into the additional profit, and based on that share price is expected to rise. That's the simple theory here. If the tax rate is constant, then there is a 5% probability of tax rate constant, and focus on my words, I'm using the and word, tax rate constant and share price rises. Then 0% probability of tax rate increasing and share price will rise. Both are the joint, all are the, sorry, not both, all three are the joint probabilities. Again, the same scenario is applicable here. Joint probabilities 5%, 20% and 5%. And then you have share price fall 0%, 25% and 25%. So all these are probabilities. We will keep probability for the separation or the better visualization or identification. We will keep all these probabilities in the red section. Okay. These are again probabilities and these are again probabilities. The fundamental principle is your tally, this total should be equal to 100%, and again this should be equal to 100%. So we discussed this in the probability chapter. You already know what is the table structure. For the better identification or better understanding, I will provide you the, or we will draw tree diagram for these. So 3 branches. This is tax reduction, tax constant and tax increase. If this happens, then 3 scenarios. If TC, that is constant, happens, then 3 scenario. If it is increased, then 3 scenarios. Now, what is the probability of tax constant? What I will do here is I will note all the probabilities by red pen and their respective values by blue pen. Okay. So probability here is 20%. Then we have 50%. And the probability of increase, tax increase is 30%. We can cross tally this from our probability matrix. See, tax reduction 20% total. This is totals column. Okay, so total tax reduction 20% probability, tax constant 50% probability, and tax increase 30% probability. Very simple, right? So 20, 50, 30%. If the tax is reduced in that particular scenario, share price will rise, P of R. Then share price will stay constant, P of C. Share price will stay, or sorry, it will fall, is here. But remember, this is conditional probability. Conditional on what? Conditional on TR. 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 That is taxes reduced. So do we have any values here in our table? The simple answer is no, because we have these values. See, the current values provided in the matrix are the joint probabilities, meaning I will just put X here, this X, meaning TR, that is 20% probability multiplied by X. Whatever is the probability at this point, we don't know. Whatever is the probability is the result, which is the joint probability, is provided in the matrix. Always remember, probability matrix provides the joint probability, which is the 15%. So this is 15%. Then we have 5%. and then we have 0%, right? 15%, 5%, 0%. This is a joint probability. Okay. The similar case will be applicable here. R constant, that is share price rise, constant, and share price will fall. And then again, rise, constant, and fall. All these are the conditional probabilities. Okay, this section is conditional. Just a second. This section is of the conditional probability. This section is of joint probability. And these are your marginal probabilities. That is the total probability. Okay. Now next, again, we have the joint probabilities for the next section, which is 5%. Then we have 20%. I'm doing nothing but just noting all these probabilities here. Okay. So see, 5%, sorry, 15%, 5%, 0%. Wrong. 15%, 5%, 0%. Like this. 15%, 5%, 0%. The next is this section, that is if the tax rate is constant, then 5%, 20%, 25%. So 5%, 20%, 25%. And then we have 0%, 5%, and 25%. Okay. 0%, 0%, 5%, and 25%. Like this. Okay. And then we get the total probabilities. So here, if you take the total of this value and this value, that is all the joint probabilities which relates to the price rise. So here you have price rise, price rise, price rise, price rise. Okay. So if you just total this value, and this value, you will get total probability, total P of price rise. So just take the total, and if you take the total is 15% plus 5% plus 0%, which is 20%. Let's check the total probability of price rise. So share price rise by 10%, the total probability is 20%. In similar fashion, you will get 30% and 50%. So just see here, just take the total of this, the second values, the constant C values, and you will get obviously second 20-30%, right? So here our answer is, first I will note down the answer for this, which is 20%. Right. Now the thing is, what about the conditional probability? So we all know how to calculate the conditional probability. If you are unable to recall for some reason, the answer is very simple. So you got this 15% by what logic? So we took 20% multiplied by this x, this x, right? Multiplied by x is equal to 15%. Now you are smart enough, you know how to calculate the x. You have to simply divide, that is 15% divided by 20%, and you will get the result. Okay, so just do the calculation. I have already made the calculations, so I will directly note it down. So here we have 75%, 25%, 25%, and then we have 0% because one value is 0. Now remember, when you have conditional probability conditional on one particular event, your total should be 100%. So here you will get, or you should get 100%. Just check if you're getting 100% or not. Yes, 75 plus 25, 100. Perfect. So should you get the 100% here? No. But you will get 100% here. If you take all the possible events, then automatically you will get 100%. In similar fashion, we have values here. So 10%, 40%, and 50%. Then next is 0%, and then 16.67%, and 83.33%, like this. Okay, so simply you have the conditional probabilities now, conditional probability for the individual events. So now see here, 1, 2 and 3, you will get one value, and then last one, this and this is one value, right? If you collect these values, we will call this as a marginal distribution. Okay, so this is the marginal distribution of share price movement. Focus on my word. This is the marginal distribution of share price movement. And we already have this. Just see here, share price movement, this marginal distribution. This is the marginal distribution of what? Tax rate changes. TRC, tax rate changes. Simple. I hope you got the idea of what is marginal distribution. So marginal distribution is nothing but you will use the total probabilities. Okay. So total probabilities, remember, marginal is the total probability or unconditional probability. So marginal distribution is called as total probability distribution, or in standard words, you will use the marginal distribution. But maybe GAP might use the unconditional probability distribution. So you have to remember marginal, total, unconditional, all are one and the same thing. Fine. Now, conditional probability distribution. This is the conditional probability distribution of the share price changes given tax rate is reduced. Or this is also conditional probability distribution. This is also conditional probability distribution. Simply, distribution is how the probability is distributed among the events, right? So this is the probability distribution. So you have conditional PD. I'm writing it down as PD, conditional probability distribution. As simple. Okay. And the way we note this is the probability distribution of, say, share price. Let's take this particular part, increase. Share price increase given what? Tax is reduced, like this. So the conditional probability for what? For this specific event. This is not a general conditional probability distribution. It should be dependent on the one particular event. Fine. So this is the discussion. And then you also have the joint probability distribution. The joint probability distribution is, you will simply take the joint probabilities, and this will be your joint probability distribution. Fine. So this is the thing you need to understand from here. And again, if you get the question in the exam, the question should be like, so what will be the total probability distribution or the marginal probability distribution? Simply take the total of these. Or if GAP asks about this particular part, that is the tax part, or there will be obviously different example, but this particular part, that is say A, and then you will take the total of these, or not total of these probabilities. Simple, right? So always remember this. This is again not the fresh discussion. This is a repeated discussion. We already talked this in the probability. This is just again the revision for you, and just the change of the way we say it, right? Now the expected value. Now you are smart enough. If I ask you what is the expected share price change, can you tell me what is the expected share price change? Expected share P change. What is the formula for this? Formula is very simple. 10% increase multiplied by what is the probability of this? 20% plus, this is the probability. 0% change multiplied by 30% probability plus 20% change, sorry, minus. It should be minus, okay? So because this is a fall, we will take this as minus 5% multiplied by 50% probability. Simple. Do the math and get the answer. So expected share price change. You can easily calculate this, right? Now next is expected share price change. Share price change given tax rate is constant. So you are supposed to calculate the expected value. So what we will do here? We will take the joint probabilities, okay? Not the joint probabilities. We will take these probabilities. Conditional probabilities. Okay, so 10%, 40%, and 50%. So we will use this particular section, this section, and using this section, again, you know what is the probability, what is the value of R, what is the value of C, what is the value of fall, minus 5%. Simply multiply it with the probability and get the answer. So 10%, 40%, 50%. So share price will increase by 10%, that is say 10% multiplied by its probability, which is 10%, both are same, then plus this is probability, plus 0% change multiplied by 40% probability, and plus 5% reduction in share price or fall in share price, and probability is 50%. Simple. Just do the maths. Solve this and you will get the answer. Very simple. So expected share price change given the tax rate is constant. You can do this similar for the tax rate is reduced, tax rate is increased, and so on. No problem with that. Right. Next is you can also calculate the expected tax rate change or expected tax rate. So simple again, take the total probability and the rate. So 8% tax rate, what is the probability for this? This is 20%, this is the probability. Then we have 12% tax rate, and then you have probability which is 50%, and then you have 16% of tax rate change multiplied by 30%. This is the probability, this is the probability. Simply take the total. So expected tax rate, here we are not talking about the change here. In share price case, we are talking about the change. Here we are talking about the tax rate. Fine. That's it. This is the end of the discussion of the probability section is over in the multivariate. Now we will move into the next section. Next section relates to the covariance, correlation, and the remaining, the statistics part of it. Fine. So here we will take the two variables x1, x2. I'm not going to do any calculation here. If you want to see the calculation, just check the calculator video which I uploaded, or again, this we covered in the basic statistics section, and again we covered the same thing in the CAPM section, and we are just revising it, right? So for this reason, we will just cover the basics. So say x1, we will take three values, 20, 10, 20, 30. And then we have 5, 6, and 7. So these are the values. So for these values or these two variables, you can calculate mean, can calculate mode, not mode, yeah, still like there is no mode here. And you can calculate median. This is the first set, central tendency measure. Then you can calculate the standard deviation and also variance. You can calculate standard deviation and variance. So you will get the individual values for these. I expect you to do it because there is nothing new. You already know how to calculate this. Now next, dependency, correlationships. In dependency, we have discussion. First is the covariance, that is x1 and x2. Covariance between x1 and x2. So formula for this covariance calculation is summation of, wait a second, I'll take the separate space. Covariance of x, y, x1, x2, you can take anything, is equal to summation x minus x bar, y minus y bar divided by n minus 1. Okay, using this we will calculate correlation of xy, and formula for the correlation is covariance of xy divided by sigma x, sigma y. So I'm using y, you can take x1, x2, doesn't matter. It is one and the same thing. This is the first thing, this is the second thing, and the third thing is beta, but again, beta is not discussed in your curriculum, so I'm avoiding the beta discussion. Okay, we will discuss then and there only. This in CAPM section. Now just see here. Don't be afraid of this particular formula. See what is going to happen in the exam. If you are provided with this particular type of information, this information, that is the values are provided, then you have to use the TI-BO2 plus calculator 1V function. You have to simply feed the values. It will provide you the correlation, not the covariance. It will directly provide you this particular part. Generally, there is no as such use of covariance apart from calculating the correlation. So we feed covariance in the correlations formula, which is this correlation, Pearson's correlation coefficient in the standard format. We use covariance to calculate the correlationship. Fine. And if you are provided with the correlationship itself by the calculator, then why do we need to calculate the covariance? So don't worry about it. So what is a covariance? So covariance is the variance between the two variables. Just see here covariance matrix. So in covariance matrix, you have sigma x square, sigma xy, just make sure the notations are proper, xy and sigma y square. Okay, so x goes here, y goes here. So just see here, when you use the x and x, remember x and x, why? Remember the formula, that is x minus x bar square divided by n minus 1 if you are taking for the sample is the formula for the variance of x, right? This is the variance of x. I can write this formula in one particular style, that is again like this, that is summation of x minus x multiplied by x minus x bar. I'll again rephrase that, summation of x minus x bar multiplied by x minus x bar, like this. Fine, no problem with that. If you multiply this becomes a x minus x bar square. Very simple. Okay. When you have x minus x bar and x minus x bar, we call this as variance. If I change this into y minus y bar, only the latter term, y minus y bar, this becomes a covariance because this will depict or this will show the co-movement of these two variables. This becomes a covariance. Okay, so variance, covariance. Fine. That's why you have formula like this. That is x minus x bar, y minus y bar. Got it? And then we use this in the correlation calculation. So here you already know how to calculate this. You already know how to calculate this. You already know how to calculate this. You generally don't need to calculate this, but yeah, you're smart enough, right? So I'll give you the illustration. The covariance here is, I should be careful while giving you the covariance because it might create some inconsistencies in the question. So let's take covariance equal to 0.0625 and standard deviation equal to, say, sigma x is 26% and sigma y is 28%, and based on this calculation just solve this. Okay, calculate the correlation. So if assuming I provided you the correct values, the values in sync, you should get correlationship between the +1 and -1. +1 is perfectly positive correlation, -1 is perfectly negative correlation, 0 is no correlation, that is a no linear correlation. All these values are linear correlationships only and not the non-linear correlationship. One statement you should always remember for the exam purpose: if there is no correlation, the Pearson's correlation coefficient is 0, this means there is no linear correlationship between the two variables. This does not mean there is no relationship or correlationship between the two variables. There might be some different kind of correlationship between the two variables. So that's the statement you're supposed to remember. Now here, once you are done with the correlation part, nothing is left. Okay, so simply this is the matrix. So here you have matrix, covariance matrix, sorry, yeah, covariance variance matrix in simple terms. So this is the variance of x, this is the variance of y, this is xy, xy, like this. So you will always have these two values same. You will always get the same values. Why? Because it's the covariance. So sigma xy is the covariance of xy. Sigma x square is the variance of x. Sigma y square is the variance of y. But sigma xy is the covariance of xy. So this is the matrix structure. In case you get the information in this particular format, you have to remember this. If you ask me to plot this information, the above mentioned information in the matrix format, I will plot like, first, this is standard deviation. So we have to again calculate the variance. 0.26 square, which is sigma x square, 0.0676. Then we have 0.0625, 0.0625, and then 0.28 square, 0.0784. This is simply what? Covariance variance matrix. Okay, so start with x, then y. Okay, so I hope you understood this particular part, the covariance variance part. Now next, where do we use this? So we use this in the portfolio optimization. We already discussed this in the CAPM section. Okay, we already covered this in CAPM. So I will start with the illustration. Say you have asset A, asset B, using which we want to construct a portfolio. So 10% is the return for the standard asset A, 12% is the return for the asset B. Standard deviation is 5% and 6%, and weight as in the composition or the component of A and B in the this portfolio is.
You try again.
20% of asset A and 80% of asset B. Fine. So this is the information. So you are provided with the return, standard deviation, or say mean return, standard deviation, and this what? Weight. So first of all, how to calculate the return of the portfolio? You are going to construct the portfolio using these weights and asset A and B. So return of portfolio is equal to return of asset A multiplied by weight plus return of asset B multiplied by weight B. Right? So again, this is very simple. 10% is the return multiplied by 20% plus 12% is the return for the asset B, and 80% you multiply it and solve this, and you will get the return of the portfolio. Correct? Now what about the standard deviation? So for standard deviation, before I begin the discussion, I will just give you the quick revision. A plus B square is equal to what? It is A square plus B square plus 2AB. Keep this in mind. And then of course, if it is minus 2AB, then we can go in the A square, A minus B square. Right. So what is the formula for the standard deviation of the portfolio? The formula looks a bit complicated. I personally think this is not testable. So the formula goes like, remember this, the sigma AWA square plus sigma BWB square plus 2 into sigma A sigma B WAWB correlationship of A and B, like this. Fine. This is formula. So you have to use this formula to solve the answer. Very simple, very basic. We can rewrite this formula by changing this particular part. Remember, we used the covariance for the calculation of what? Correlation coefficient. This particular part, right? Correlation. So sigma A, sigma B. So if I shift these terms here, what it becomes? So correlationship of AB multiplied by sigma A and sigma B. If you take this full term, this will become covariance of AB. So this part and this part will become covariance of AB, correct? So I can simply drop these values or these terms and we can simply go with the cov AB. Don't do this. Gap mentioned this covariance. Better go with the correlationship because we will discuss a lot of things by talking about the correlationship. So always go with the correlationship here, correlationship, and then sigma A, sigma B, and just solve this and you will get the answer. Again, because we did this repeatedly in the CAPM section, we are not discussing this here, discussing as in not solving any question here. Again, you have to simply take the values, put the values and get the answer, and you will get the answer. Very simple, right? Now we have to discuss the three scenarios. Scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, where the correlation is perfectly negative, where correlation is perfectly zero, where correlation is perfectly positive. If correlation is perfectly positive, then what happens? Sorry, we'll start with the correlationship when it is perfectly negative. I wrote it like this. So what it becomes, just think about it. I will help you in the first part, okay? And I will, instead of AB, I will use the 1 and 2. So sigma 1 W1 plus sigma 2 W2, both are in square, plus 2 into sigma 1 sigma 2 W1 W2 R1 2. If the correlationship is, say, perfectly negative, if this is -1, then this whole term will become negative, okay? I can just shift few terms here and I can write it like this: sigma 1 W1 multiplied by sigma 2 W2, correct? So A B A B, A square plus B square minus 2AB. What is the answer? A minus B to the power whole square, right? A minus B square. So A minus B square is equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB. So simple. So by solving this, we will get sigma 1 W1 or sigma 8 WA plus sigma 2 W2 square. So that's the answer here. This will be minus, okay? So minus sigma 1 W1 minus sigma 2 W2 square. What if it is 0? Then this whole term will be 0. And your answer will be this. That is sigma 1 W1 square plus sigma 2 W2 square, right? And if you have positive correlationship, then sigma 1 W1 plus sigma 2 W2 square, right? I hope you got the idea of what is going to happen. Again, this is a repeated discussion, just a revision for you. There is one particular formula for the minimum variance portfolio. Minimum variance portfolio. So for weight of the second asset, again, I told you, right? This is about the bivariate. That is a two variables discussion. So weight of the second asset. If you want to create a minimum variance where the variance is the least, if you want to create a minimum variance portfolio, then formula which is given here, you will never use this as far as I think. So sigma 2 minus sigma 1 2, that is a covariance, under root of covariance. Then sigma 1 minus 2 into sigma 1 2 plus sigma 2 2. These type of questions don't show up in the exam. Okay, and if GAP asks, this is very wrong, because anyway you will construct a minimum variance portfolio using the computer, not like this. Fine. This is about the portfolio part or the statistics part of this multivariate discussion. Then we have discussion which relates to the independent and identically distributed random variables. Again, the repeated discussion. So what is independent and identically distributed random variables? So random variables which are independent and identically distributed. Independent means there is no relationship between each other. One. and identically distributed means their distribution is the same. Fine. So for our analysis, this is our concern. We need these random variables to be independent and identically distributed. IID. You will use this IID assumption in many places. For general scenario, always remember you will be using, like, you have to just focus on the identical distribution or the approximately identical distribution and independence. Okay, these two variables should not be directly dependent on each other. So if this is not the case, you are good to go. You can use this in the analysis. But theoretically, we have to focus on some points. Okay, so some assumptions of IID when you will call variable IID, right? So we have to discuss those assumptions. In real life, what happens is, say you have one particular distribution, okay, and from this distribution, first you will draw a sample of 100. Let's call this as A sample of 100 and B sample of 100, right? So these two samples, if you take this as variable 1, variable 2, you can clearly see, because you are drawing these observations from the normal distribution, or say a particular distribution or the same distribution, these are identically distributed. This A and B are identically distributed because you are taking values from the same distribution, right? Next is independent. Is this the sample A independent of sample B? Yes, because it is not going to affect each other. So you draw sample A, you draw sample B. Sample A and sample B, you can't tell, like if I show you that this is the mean of sample A, you can't exactly tell me what is going to be the mean of sample B. There is no methodology available, right? It can be anything. You have to repeat this process for 100 millions of times, and then you will be able to analyze or draw inferences from it. But if you just compare these two, then these are the IIDs. This is the real life implication of the IID. For theory, you have to remember the key points. Okay, so let's discuss the key points. So I will just note it down, and you have to remember it just like that. Variance of these IIDs are independent of all other component. You can inference, like you can draw inference from this, is like, say, just take the example of head and tail. Okay, if I get the head in the first toss, then in second trial, what will I get, head or tail? We don't know. So that's the independence. Okay, independent of the component, previous or next coming component. So independent of all other components. Then all from single distribution. I said variance, not variance, variable. Okay, variables are, not variance of, variance point is letter. Variables are independent of all the other components. Variables are from, like, all from the single distribution. Then third point is all have same moments. Mean, mode, median. Okay, so this is the first section for the variable. Second is for the variance. Let's discuss expected value first. Expected value of sum of equal to n mu. Okay, so expected value of sum of n IIDs. If you take this, say 10 IID, independent and identically distributed random variables, then this will be equal to n multiplied by mu. This is population's mean. Fine. Then variance. Variance of the sum of NIID. Okay, one more thing, expected value of sum of IID. Okay, this is sum of, not the IID, this is sum of IIDs. So variance of sum of NIIDs, IID random variable, is equal to n into sigma square, population standard deviation. Again, you have to remember these key points. And this variance of these variables, IIDs, grows linearly. Fine. Now the key point, which we are concerned about. So variance of average of multiple IID random variables decreases as n increases. Remember, in hypothesis testing chapter, we discussed this. As you increase n, the mean of the sampling distribution, this is the sampling distribution. When you collect or when you draw samples from the distribution, you are ultimately constructing a sampling distribution. So variance of average of multiple IID means average of multiple IID, meaning the mean of multiple IIDs. If you take mean of multiple IIDs, then automatically the variance will reduce as you increase the n. Very simple. Okay, this point we discuss, and this is the main concern. This is what we are supposed to like use in the real life. But for exam purpose, please remember both. Then linear transformation. Now the linear transformation. Assume the relationship that is x2 is equal to a plus b x1. There is limitation. Like how much I can explain this. Okay, so limitation, because again this becomes very tricky or mathematical to explain. Okay, this is the relationship between the two variables. This is the first variable, this is the second variable. I'll try to simplify it. Okay, so not difficult to explain, difficult to simplify. We have to go raw here. Okay, so it provides the two effects or three effects. The first effect is, assuming this relationship, first effect is B determines correlation. Here, instead of explaining anything, remember the chapter linear regression. Okay, 3 chapters after this. So that's why I said study this in afterwards, not now. I don't need to give any explanation. This B determines the correlation, right? This determines the correlation, correct? We already know this from the regression chapter. Second effect. Second effect is the amount of A has no effect on variance of course. Again, remember the linear transformation property from the common univariate chapter. You already know what is the meaning of this. That is A plus BX. So automatically when you calculate the variance, it becomes a B square X, right? So A has, that is the location parameter, has no impact on the variance. And B determines the scale of the variance. Correct? But by B square. You have to remember this. And third effect. So what is the third effect? Third effect is, again, this is the same property as the previous chapter's property. So for B and D, let's see how B and D is coming into picture. The linear transformation of covariance of A plus BX and C plus D x2, sorry, okay, this is x1 and x2, so two variables, will be equal to BD x1 x2. Now again, recollect the univariate property. Univariate property was A plus BX. The variance is B square X. correct? Here, sorry, b square x square, right? So here this x becomes x1 x2 and this b becomes b and d, like this. This square becomes this, it is getting split into the two parts. That's it. Okay. And again, remember location parameter. Sorry, these b and d are the scale parameter. A and b, location parameter A and C has no effect on the covariance as well as the variance. Remember this in the theory format. Location parameter has no effect on the variance or covariance. Not here in multivariate, not in single or common univariate. Okay. So that's about the multivariate topic. Remember all the key points which we discussed here. And if you have any confusion, feel free to ask me. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching this video.